Welcome back to Real Life Answers. My name is Ben, and this is Jesus on Culture. Welcome to Jesus on Culture, where we take one of today's top cultural issues and discuss it in a series. This series involves two pastors, Dan Bannister, pastor of Grace Alive Church in Ontario, California, and Bob Bannister, pastor of First Baptist Church Springfield, Louisiana. We'll be discussing issues such as, should Christians be involved in social justice? Is racism a sin? What is white privilege? Does it actually exist? God bless you, have a great day, and here is Jesus on Culture.
This is all kind of tied together, but I didn't want to miss these questions. What kind of impact could this have on racial tension for the Confederate flag to be removed from that symbol that they used on their flag? How does that help with the racial tension in America?
Well, I think it depends on how it's done. And what I mean by that, when we look at, I've heard some people say that this is a non-issue and it shouldn't have been, it shouldn't be a big deal and people shouldn't be worried about it. Well, as long as that's the attitude of people, then this won't do much for racial tension. Because what the Black community is hearing from people who say, this shouldn't have been a concern to start with, and the flag should have been left alone. What they're hearing from non-Black community is that we don't care about oppression. However, if the church and other people will stand behind the Black community and say, you know what, this is a symbol that should have been torn down a long time ago, and we repent, we're sorry that this hasn't been taken down. This was a sin of partiality, it was a sin of discrimination, and we are going to stand with our Black brothers and sisters and remove this, and remove it quickly with haste. And this is coming down, and I'm thankful to God that it is coming down. But the church should be celebrating the removal of a symbol of oppression. And if we will celebrate the removal of that, then that celebration actually goes a long way to healing racial tension, because we stand with the Black community and not against them or indifferent to them.
It comes down to a question of what's most valuable to us, a symbol or a person. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's just the honest truth. We've got to come to that place where we ask ourselves that question, because I believe that's why we're so polarized in America, is we put a lot of things ahead of the human being and our relationship with God, and it causes us trouble, pushes us away from each other. Now, another question I have is, how would you answer people who are avidly against the removal of the Confederate flag?
Okay. So
obviously in love, but if somebody's on the show right now listening, how would you help them, if they're on our side, answer someone who is that livid and irritated over it being removed? How can they help in that situation?
Okay, so I'm going to speak specifically to Christians, because I think that's who God's called me to talk to primarily in this conversation.
Same. Yep.
The claim, and this is where I think a lot of the Southerners in particular who want to hold on to that Confederate symbol and who are angry about the Confederate symbol being removed. It's an argument for your rights. That's what you're upset about. The thing that I want to call you back to is the words of the Apostle Paul in Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 through 11. And I'll argue, I will even make the statement, and I think I've already been strong on this, that the Confederate flag needs to be removed as a symbol of oppression. There's no call for it. There are plenty of other things that can be symbols of Southern pride that are not Confederate battle flags. And so I think that we can look for better ways to celebrate our heritage. But looking at Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 through 11, this is where the Apostle Paul says that we're to have the same mind that Jesus had, who, even though he was God, didn't consider equality with God something to be grasped, but instead took on the likeness of man and was born in the form of a human as a servant, and became obedient to death, even the death on the cross. And so Jesus laid down his rights out of love for us. Now,
also, again, a physical example of that was when he washed the disciples' feet the night before he was betrayed, or the night he was betrayed.
Absolutely. And I want to be careful because I want to be sure that anybody who is listening doesn't think that I'm saying that, well, you may have the right to Confederate flag. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that that your argument is an argument for rights. And the argument that it's my right to be able to hold on to this symbol. The problem with that is so if we look at, even if we were to assume that that was a right that you actually have and that it was harmless and that it was good, and let's assume that for a moment, Jesus actually lays down his rights to reach us, and he calls us, the passage that you just quoted, Rob, on the washing of the disciples' feet. Jesus actually says, okay, you've seen me do this, and you call me Lord and Master, and so I am. But if I've done this for you, do this for one another. So Jesus calls us to lay down our rights to serve others. Here's the problem. The thing that I want to be sure is that the contrast isn't even a good one, because the contrast that I'm making would assume that the right was a legitimate one to start with. And what I would say is that the Confederate battle flag should never have been included on the flag of Mississippi. And this is where I love what Russell Moore says about this. Russell Moore is the president of the Ethics and Religious Liberties Commission of the Southern Baptist Convention, wrote an article, and he's from Mississippi. And he actually makes the statement, because a lot of times the argument that's made,
Mississippi. That's
hold
cool.
on. What's that?
I didn't know Russell Moore was from Mississippi. That's awesome.
Yep. And so one of the things that he brings up in this article is he says, okay, we want to hold on to this as a symbol of Southern heritage. And the argument that's made against it is that we're erasing history somehow by removing it. He says the removal of the Confederate symbol from the flag of Mississippi is not a denial of history or a rewriting of history. It's an acknowledgement of history. It is recognizing that the Confederate battle flag is a symbol of hatred and oppression toward our Black brothers and sisters. And if this is something that is hurting the Black community, then who cares what rights we think we have to it? My move as a Christian needs to be on the side.
So, what did you think? Is there anything you'd like to add to what was said today? If so, please let us know in the comments below. Also, if you like what you saw today, please hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss an episode. Finally, please join us every Monday at 4 p.m. for new issues regarding our culture.